You want the short version or the one with the sand still in it? The short version is a cop told me, "You're going to jail, sweetheart." On the same day I put a key in the door of my first real home, and by sunset the whole street was holding its breath because of two silver eagles on my shoulders. The truth is longer, messier, and truer. So here we go, one breath at a time, you know what I mean? That morning started like a postcard, blue sky over Hawthorne Bluffs, sprinklers ticking in rhythm, hedges trimmed so sharp you could line up your life against them and think everything would stay straight. I stood at a podium in dress blues, kept my remarks simple because grief gets louder when you dress it up, told the crowd I'd served 26 years, and I'd just signed papers on a little brick place on Kestrel Court. The mayor gripped my hand, a kid whistled, and somebody yelled, "Welcome home, Colonel," which felt like the first deep breath I'd taken in months. In the City Hall restroom, I swapped the uniform shirt for a gray tee, slid the jacket over everything, told myself I'd hit the cleaners later because the creases could slice an apple. The realtor texted that she had a family emergency and couldn't meet me. I texted back, "No problem." Because after decades of moving from base to base, I am allergic to being hovered over, and I drove out to Hawthorne Bluffs with a smile I didn't have to rehearse. I parked 2 blocks away because I like to start how I mean to go on, respectful of driveways in neighborhoods where a note with 3 exclamation points multiplies on your windshield if you forget. And I walked in like a woman who finally got to put her duffel down, counted steps from curb to porch like we do on ranges, took photos for no one but myself. Imagined a bench on the front walk, a grill on the back patio, a shelf for the plant. A friend sent me from El Paso, felt the rare thing called peace, stand close enough to touch. Across the street, a woman watched me like she was reading a password off my face and kept getting it wrong. I didn't know her name yet. Later, I'd learn it was Sloan Whitaker, neighborhood watch captain, with a timeline full of posts about property values like their stray cats needing constant guarding. But right then, she was just a face framed in a window with a phone in her hand and a decision already made about who I was. A cruiser rolled by. I gave a friendly wave because I'm trying to be the neighbor. The officer didn't wave back. He slowed and stared like he was guessing my weight for a county fair prize, then swung in and lit up the roof, and I felt my chest go tight in that too familiar way as he stepped out and said he needed to see ID. "Sure," I said, calm on purpose. "I live here. Well, I bought it yesterday. The deed's in my car around the corner." I handed over my military ID and watched his eyes not really read it. "Colonel Aria Coleman," he said, like he'd found a typo in the idea of me. "This house sold for 1.95, right?" "Yes," I said, "cash or loan." He asked like he was a mortgage officer moonlighting. "Is that standard for this street or just today's special for me?" I said, a little heat slipping out because I'm human. "Yeah, that happened." He set his hand near his holster, the way men set a chess piece right in the center to make a point. Told me to explain again why my car was 2 blocks away. I told him again I didn't want to clutter the street. He tilted his head. "So let me get this straight. You parked out of sight, walked in, took pictures of high-dollar homes. I took pictures of my home," I said, measuring where the sofa goes. "It's a girl thing. You can tell your buddies." I said that. No laughter, just a second cruiser, and a rookie stepping out with the academy still pressed into his shirt. Ruiz, his tag read. He nodded my way like a man trying to carry 2 laws at once, the department's and his mother's. And I felt a flicker of hope I wasn't ready to trust. Sloan drifted into the street like she was auditioning for Concerned Citizen. Told the officer she'd called because I'd been checking windows and taking pictures, and "They have children here, ma'am," I said. "I live here, really," she hummed, dragging that word across the pavement. "What do you do that lets you afford Hawthorne Bluffs?" "Dear, I'm in the military, 26 years, I said. "On military pay." She said like the country never wrote a check to anyone who wore a uniform longer than a parade. I inhaled and counted to 4 because I like my freedom more than I like winning an argument on a sidewalk. The officer, Kincaid, I could see now, radioed dispatch and asked for a property check. The reply came fast. New owner listed for 18 Kestrel Court A. Coleman possession yesterday. Keys released Tuesday. I watched Ruiz's shoulders loosen like the math finally added up for him. Kincaid didn't budge. "That doesn't prove you're you," he said. "Identity theft happens. You'd be surprised." "I'm done being surprised," I said. "Hands on the hood while we get our ducks in a row," he said, routine. And I placed my palms on the cruiser and heard the skin hiss because midday sun in this town turns metal into a skillet, and I was suddenly in 2 places at once. On that street and back beside a vehicle that wasn't going to stop burning just because I told it to. He pat me down like a checklist. Nothing reckless, but not one bit private. Neighbors filming through half-closed blinds and a teenager with his phone up like a shield. He reached the jacket, felt bulk. "What's this clothes?" I said. "What kind uniform?" I said. Forgot to drop it at the cleaner. "Open it," he said slowly. And I wanted to say he hadn't earned that part of my day, but I also wanted to walk into my house alive, so I pinched the zipper and pulled an inch of navy, another inch of brass, catching the sun another inch, and the ribbons came into view. Little rectangles that carry miles and nights you don't talk about at backyard barbecues. The bronze star with V, the purple heart, Afghanistan, Iraq. He leaned closer like he had to squint to see the truth. And then the silver eagles showed themselves, one on each shoulder. The street forgot how to breathe. Someone's phone lowered. Sloane took a step back like she'd walked into her own reflection, and Kincaid lost color like the heat had finally reached him. I kept my hands where they were one extra beat because control is its own kind of prayer. "Colonel Arya Coleman," I said, "United States Army, 26 years. "Uniforms can be bought online," Sloane said. "Bless her unoriginal heart." And Ruiz shook his head, soft but solid. "Not those, not with those devices. You don't fake that." I slid my keys out of my pocket and walked to the door because I was done proving the obvious. The first key went into the deadbolt with that low metal scrape that sounds like a verdict. Click. The second turned the handle. Click. The door opened into a scuffed little entryway, and my life on the other side of it. 10 minutes later, the chief pulled up, no swagger, no siren. Just a man who had seen enough days to stop pretending he hadn't. He studied my face like he was flipping pages in his memory until it landed somewhere hot and loud. "Colonel," he said, removing his hat like his body remembered before his brain did. "If I'm right, you pulled a private named Wyatt out of a truck south of Kandahar in 2007. His arm was pinned. I said we cut the belt, hauled him before the ammo cooked off. That was me," he said, and then he said what mattered out loud where the neighborhood could hear it. "This was racial profiling. That's not our policy. That's not who we say we are, and I am sorry." Ruiz looked at his phone like it was a cliff and he had to jump anyway, hovered his thumb over upload. Kincaid told him we don't upload body cam without approval. Chief Wyatt said, "Policy is upload after incidents like this. This qualifies. Follow policy." Ruiz tapped that little progress bar, became a fuse that ran into places none of us were ready for, and all of us needed. By evening. My name had traveled farther than my car ever would, and 3 people found me because their stories were tired of being small. Marco Alvarez, a delivery driver who spent 40 January minutes on a curb while boxes of groceries sat open until the officer got bored and told him have a nice night without meaning it. Tyrese Holt, 16, emptied his backpack on a sidewalk while his friends filmed with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Dr. Rena Desai walked to her car at 2 a.m. for a charger and got quizzed like her hospital ID was a party trick. All 3 complaints dismissed by a sergeant named Mason Crow, Kincaid's cousin, because families are strong and Hawthorne Bluffs when they want to be. Internal Affairs sent an investigator named Dana Cho. The next morning, she didn't come in looking to perform outrage. She came with a tablet and a stylus and a kind of patience that doesn't blink. She did math while men like to do speeches. 82 discretionary stops over 22 months. She said 68 of them involved people of color in a town that's 89% white. 4 citations total, no arrests. 3 citizen complaints dismissed by Crow. Same officer at the center. Every time you can say it, I told her it's hunting, not policing. She nodded like she'd already written it that way. Then she played the 911 call Sloane made. "I don't recognize her. People like her." Taking pictures. We all heard the soft words that still cut, and it wasn't a surprise, but it still stung. Chief Wyatt wrote a sworn statement that I honestly didn't expect to see from a badge. He named it racism and unprofessional conduct. He flagged Crow's nepotism as a pattern. He said the department failed. Ruiz gave his account without pretending he'd been perfect. He said he waited too long to speak because probation wraps around your neck when the man training you decides what counts as the truth. And I appreciated the honesty because it's expensive and most people try to put it on layaway. At the hearing, Kincaid sat with his union rep in a stance built to intimidate. The words reasonable suspicion and safety got tossed around like confetti. Dana laid out her numbers like bricks and invited people to build a bridge to reality. Marco talked about missing his son's school program because 40 minutes matters when you only get so many of them. Tyrese's mother kept a hand on his knee and looked like somebody who's been told to trust the system too many times and ran out of ways to say fine. Dr. Desai didn't cry because she didn't have to. He asked me 3 times if I was really a doctor at 2 in the morning while my pager was going off. My part was simple and hard. I told them about the hood and the heat and the way the street went silent when the Eagles showed up, not because rank makes me more human, but because some folks need a costume change to see your humanity at all. The board deliberated less time than it takes to make a pot of coffee terminated effective immediately. Crow suspended pending investigation. The union stamped their feet in paragraphs and promised an appeal, which came and failed because numbers and video beat rumor and posture, 9 times out of 10. I walked out into sun that didn't try to lie about itself, still bright, still honest. And I didn't mistake that for a parade change, showed up like a neighbor with careful hands, one piece at a time. The council created a civilian oversight committee, and until we get an office, we meet in my living room because I make decent coffee and it turns out chairs in a circle make people brave. Policy shifted. Body cams auto-upload at end of shift. No supervisor veto bias training that isn't a 45-minute slide deck with a quiz you could pass in your sleep. Independent review for every complaint state. Reps asked to put my name on a draft bill, and I told them to take it off unless the bill had teeth because I'm not interested in a monument that doesn't bite. They laughed and said they'd try. We'll see. Sloan didn't knock on my door with an apology. Her husband called from a blocked number and said he was withdrawing his officer candidate school application because he wanted to be better. First, he signed up to volunteer at a legal aid clinic on Saturdays. I told him growth takes as much courage as rescue, sometimes more. Ruiz got his detective shield sooner than his enemies wanted because the chief decided to reward truth instead of silence. He brought me a houseplant. His girlfriend swears is low maintenance. I killed a cactus at Fort Carson once, but I'm trying. If you want the funny part, the first Saturday I tried to bake cookies for the committee and set off the smoke alarm. 4 guaranteed defenders of the public good jumped up and stared at my oven like it was a hostile actor. We ate store-bought sugar cookies and called it a win, you know what I mean? If you want the part I still wrestle with, here it is. My story got heard because a zipper revealed a uniform, because a chief remembered me from a day when the fire wanted him more than he wanted to die. Because math did what politeness wouldn't, because someone's thumb pressed upload. Do you hear Marco without a medal? Do you believe Tyrese without a mother louder than her fear? Do you accept Dr. Desai without a hospital ID swinging like a shield? Some days I wake up hopeful, and some days I wake up mad. Both are true, and both move the work forward, because the truth doesn't care how tidy you feel while you're saying it. Why it's